Okay, we'll start with an assignment here. Write a program with variables to display the details like name, surname, father name, mother name, school you have studied, and display the details. This is the first assignment which you have to take up. And the next assignment, so this is how the value should be displayed. Pause the video and then just check it out and then get it exactly as on your screen. This is the third one. So again we are dealing with integers, float values. So just try to get this particular output. And then we'll be looking at prompt. Prompt is a statement which does several interesting things. So there are two things which we'll look at. One is alert. So there is a modal dialog box that is being prompted, and then it gives out some message, and a prompt asks a question and expects the user to ask a question. So it also provides space for a response. For example, so previous case we were just using a variable name and then putting it as Sambala, and also we were taking num1 as 10. Both are variables and then the values are taken. So but with respect to your alert, what it does is it gives out some message which we'll look at in a program. And the prompt also, when we use the prompt, it asks enter a number. For example, enter a number, and it actually provides a text box where you can enter that particular value. So passes the information. So whatever you give to the text box, the value, it passes the information to the variable. The purpose of prompt is to get data from the user. The prompts are nearly always connected to a variable. When the code is finished, the variable contains the indicated value. For example, what is your name? Okay, and there is a text box which provides space for you to enter. Say if I say Allah and then press on the OK button there, and this value is assigned to name, and from there you can use it for further programming. So this is the use case of a prompt. Also you can enter a number, for example. So if you want to take an input for a number, so enter 10, and then so num1 will take the value 10 once you click on OK. Similarly, you can do it for num2, num3, and whatever the variables you have taken. So if you have taken num1 and num2, and then if you want to add num1 plus num2, you can further write the code and get the output as 30. So either you can print it as the value, or you can use it as an alert. So prompt pops up a dialog box. This model dialog box is much like the one alert method creates, asks a question, and then provides space for response. So the dialog box contains a space for the users to type a response and buttons for the user to click when he is finished or wants to cancel the operation. Alert. So this technique pops up a small dialog box containing text for the user to read. So the alert box is an example of a modal dialog. Modal dialog interrupts the flow of the program until the user pays attention. So if you have the number add, and then if you want to just print that value, so you use the alert box. Now nothing else will happen in the program until the user acknowledges. So the alert box is used so that until the user acknowledges the dialog by clicking the OK button, the user cannot interact with the page until he clicks the button. So this is the use case of an alert. You simply display a message using the alert. And we look at operators. So operators are arithmetic operators. So addition, subtraction and all that, relational operators, greater than, less than, not equal to, double equal to is used for comparing two variables, and you have not equal to also as a comparison, and you have and or not, and then assignment operators like equals, plus equals, minus equal, and so on. And then we have a plus equals b, which is same as a is equal to a plus b. So this stands the same in case of other operators like minus equals, asterisk equals, division equals, mod equals, and so on. So we'll look at one program here. I'm trying to run this. So pretty much the same code what we start script, and then I'm taking a, and then I'm using prompt function here to take the value of it, enter a number. So prompt will actually ask the user to enter a number, and further once we have the parse int, so parse int will convert that particular value. So if I am taking a value 10 as a prompt, so by default it will take as a string. Now because we are dealing with some arithmetic operation here, multiplication, so we are multiplying this value with some integer value, I have to convert it. So let's look at the output before we talk further. So here it is asking for an user to enter a number. Okay, so this is a prompt box with an OK and cancel. So I will enter 10 and press on OK. So it is giving me the result, the multiplication table, 10 times 10, 10 times 1 equals 10, and then it goes on. Say let's look at the different scenario where I am entering 10 and pressing the cancel button here, and it gives an NaN, which stands for not a number. Okay, we'll look at not a number, but if you don't give any value in the prompt, box, so the variable will hold NaN. Now I'm taking 10 again, 12 now, so it gives you the multiplication table. So what has happened behind the screens is 10 is taken as a string. Now I can't multiply or do any arithmetic operation using a string with another number. So what I will do is a times 10, which is 1 times string, doesn't hold any result, so I'm using the parse int function to convert the string value of 10 to an integer. Okay, so we use the parse int to convert a string to an integer. Okay, so what happens to your 10 is a number now once we use the parse int, and that is assigned to a. Now you have a equals 10 and I equals 1, so result is 10 times 1 is 10, and next time we increment the value, I value becomes 2, then 10 times 2 is 20, and the next steps will simply increment the value of I and print, calculate the result and print it. So I plus plus is 2, so here I value still is 2, and then a value is 10. So a value remains constant throughout, and we do the further program. So here I'm not using any loop, so this is just traditional because first programs, but otherwise loops would be a lot easier, and then it will bring down the number of lines of code. What if there is 10 times 100, so you can't write 100 lines of code? The loops will look at it in the next session. So for now, just to make you type and then practice some code in JavaScript. So this is code. So here we have two numbers, first number and second number. So I'm taking parse int and number, and then I'm just printing the values of a and b and the result, and I'm doing some arithmetic operations, addition, multiplication, division, and so on. I'm trying to run this. So it is prompting me to enter the first number, so I'll take 10 and the second number as 2, and then you can see the result. A value is 10, B value is 2, and all the result of all the arithmetic operations. So here again I'm taking a prompt and then a result. Now in this program we'll look at post increment and pre-increment. So first I'm printing the value of a and then doing a post increment which is a plus plus, and then we'll also look at pre-increment as well. So we'll look at the difference between a plus plus and plus plus a. So on the similar lines we have post decrement and pre-decrement. So we'll look at the difference between what happens really when you try to do a post decrement and pre-decrement. Similarly, we'll look at what is post increment when you assign a value. So first I'm taking a number which is 10 for easy purpose. So a value I'm printing as 10. Post increment is also 10. And the value of a after increment is 11. So here what happens is we have 10 assigned to a and a value after increment is 11, pre-increment is 12. So there is some confusion here. So let me just ward off your confusion. So let's put it the value as 10 here for a and then 10 plus plus, and we are assigning to result. Okay, so what happens is, and then we are printing the result. Now we have got post increment as 10. Okay, so what has happened is when post increment the value of a is first assigned to result and then the value of a is incremented. So which means the result and a value are pretty much the same before the increment has happened. But with respect to a will increment after assigning the value to result as 10 plus plus, which becomes 11. So the value of result is 10 and the value of a is 11. Now let's look at pre-increment. So we have the value of a as 11. So it increments first, pre-increment increments first, which means a value will become 12 and this 12 value is assigned to result. So that is the reason you have pre-increment as 12 and a value as 12. So that is the difference between pre and post. So post is always, this is a scenario where we are assigning the value to a variable. So post increment will assign the value first, whatever is the value of a, to the result variable or the variable result, and then it will increment itself. Whereas pre-increment is, it will increment first and then it will assign the value to the variable on left hand side. So that is the difference. But pretty much if you use it as a standalone, a plus plus and plus plus a both increment their values. The only problem is when you try to assign it to a variable, then you have to be little careful. And then we'll look at The plus operator can also be used to concatenate. So here have two strings and then txt1 and txt2, and then we are trying to concatenate, which is bringing the two texts together. Plus is here is a concatenation operator. You can try these programs at home. Try to print multiplication table. Use the prompt to take the input of the number, and you can try some different formulae using the prompt and alert. We talk about data types. So JavaScript can hold many data types like numbers, strings, arrays, objects, and more. So we have seen the number, so directly you assign a number, and then also the string we have seen, last name Johnson, and then we have something called arrays, and string can take double quotes or single quotes. So and then arrays is you put it in a square bracket and then you have three values here, and then this is an, and you can also declare a object so which has got name and value pairs. So first name is name and the value of it is John, and we have last name which is name and the value after colon you'll have a value. So name colon value is the value pair. So numbers, string, arrays, and objects. Okay, we can also try this. Strings plus is the concatenation operator, or you can also use a number, and a string, a number, and a number. Okay, so let's look at this in a program. So taking the same use case and just trying to run the program, and let's see what the result is when we have two numbers plus a string plus two numbers. Initially it is 5 plus 6, it is a straightforward thing, and then you have a string there. The variable p holds a string, and then we are trying to concatenate, though it's a number we are concatenating, and then have 16 for Volvo, which is a string, and a string plus 16 and plus 4. So we can see the result there: 16 Volvo, 20 Volvo, and Volvo 164. Now you look at 20 Volvo, first two numbers add up and then give 16 plus 4 is 20, and then Volvo. But in the next case, Volvo plus 16 plus 4, it gives you 164, which means the starting value, which is a string, and the other two values are also taken as a string and concatenated. So data types. So numbers, we have seen decimals. So decimal value x1 is a decimal value and then we have large integers. So if you have an integer which has got a lot of zeros, so all these 5 zeros are represented after e. Okay, if you have 6 zeros, then you put e6. And similarly, if you have decimals, after decimal, whatever are the number of zeros are represented as -5. Then we have, so 5 zeros there, -5. And then we have your booleans. So boolean has two values, true or false. So often used in conditional testing. So var x can have two values, true or false. So JavaScript objects are written with curly braces. So it's starting curly brace and ending curly brace, and we have name and value pairs. In between them we have colon. So we have a string, and last name is also a string. Now you have age, which is a number. So you can have different data type values. So it's 50 here, and then eye color is blue. So the object person in the example above has 4 properties: first name, last name, age, and eye color, which have got their own values for each value, each name. And we'll look at arrays. JavaScript arrays are written with square brackets. Array items are separated by commas. So we have square brackets starting and ending, and we have 3 values. The following code declares an array called cars containing 3 items: Saab, Volvo, and BMW separated by commas. So we are declaring an array here. Name of the array is cars, and we use index for representing each item. So the first item is represented by 0, followed by 1 and 2. So how to actually access? Cars of 0 will give you SAP, cars of 1 will give you Volvo, and cars of 2 will give you BMW. So always the index starts with a 0, and then it increments. And if you talk about the length of this array, length is nothing but the number of elements in an array. Now here it is 3. Okay. So if you look at the index of the last number, last element, which will always be length -1, here it is 3 minus 1. So the index of the last element is 2. So it starts with a 0 and then ends with length -1. So we use functions like type of, and there is something called undefined. Type of gives you the type of the variable, type of, and this is double quotes, which means it will return a string. And then 3.14 gives you a number, and then type of will give you boolean. And in JavaScript, an array is a special type of object, so therefore it will return object. And then we have undefined. In JavaScript, a variable without a value has the value undefined. So the type of is also undefined. So let's consider var n, and then you just leave it. So n is not assigned any value, which means the type is undefined. And then empty values. Here, an empty value has nothing to do with undefined. Empty string variable has both a value and a type. So var car. So this is a string, but there is nothing. I'm assigning nothing in it. So which means it is undefined, but car's data type is a string. So let's consider var car1. So here it is undefined, but the earlier case, which is case 1, is it is a string with empty values. Now you know the difference between an empty value and an okay. Then we'll look at changing variables to desired types. Parse int, so parse float, they will change to integer and floating point to string. So any variable will be converted to a string. So we'll be using some variable dot to string, which means it will convert that variable to a string. So we'll look at eval. So if you want some computation within the double quotes, then in this case 5 plus 3, it will give you the addition of it, which is 8. And then we have math.ceil. So math.ceil is which gives you the upper value 5.1, 5.2, whatever it is. It gives you the upper value, which is 6. And math.floor gives you the grounded value. So it knocks off the decimal and gives you 5. Math.round 5.2, it rounds up to 5. But if you consider different values like 5.5 and 5.6 and 7, 5.7, it gives you the other one, but 5.2 gives you. So I want you to try 5.5 and 5.6 and use the math.round function. So parse int, parse float, and toString. Parse int is used to convert text to an integer. If you put a text value inside the parenthesis, function returns an integer value. If the string has floating point, then we use the parse float. ToString takes any variable type and creates a string representation. Then we'll look at JavaScript keywords. So keywords are reserved keywords. We have break, which terminates a switch or a loop. Continue jumps out of a loop and starts at the top. Debugger stops the execution of JavaScript and calls the debugging function do while, and for or the loops. And we have function which declares a function. So if you want to put the code under function, you can do that. If else is a conditional statement, and return is used with a function and returns a value and exits a function. Switch is used as conditional. Again, try catch is used for exception handling, and var is used to declare a variable. You can actually skip this for the moment. So eval we have already seen, seal also we have seen. So eval is a special method that accepts a string as input. It then attempts to evaluate the string as JavaScript code and return the output. You can use this method for variable conversion or as simple calculator. 5 plus 3 returns integer. Mat.seal. So one of the functions where we have seen it, 1.2 will give you mat.floor and mat.round. So floor 1.2, 1.8 will give you 1, and mat.round, as we have already seen, 1.2 will give you 1 and 1.8 will give you 2. So 1.5 and above will give you 2. Whatever is less than 1.5 will give you 1. If statement sets up a condition, the if statement indicates the beginning of a code branch and it prepares the way for a condition. The condition establishes a test, and conditions are true or false expressions. So the condition indicates something that can be true or false. If the condition is true, the code between the condition and the else clause runs. After this condition is finished, control moves past the end of the if statement. The condition is false, the code between else and the end of the if statement runs instead. So let's look at an example using the code. I'm taking the value of the first number, which is 10, and the second value is also 10. So first condition says both are equal. So parse int for both a and b values, and then I'm checking the condition. So prompt and parse int for a and b. So 10 and 10 are assigned for a and b both. So I'm printing the value and b and then checking for condition. If it is equal, both are equal. Now I'll look at the different scenario. The a value is 10 and the b value is 2, and then a is 10, b is 2, and then it says a is equal to 10 is greater than b. And then the third condition, we take 2 for a and 10 for b. and it displays the values, and 10 is, which is B, is greater than